是侥幸。Need a horn and a drum roll. Turn up, yeah!
I never talk to them boys that sat on them benches. I never talk to them boys that sat on them benches. I was in the game on 4th and inches.
Now it's time to go to work. All right. We are live. Sounding all right. We're sounding good. We're looking decent. Picture could be better. Okay, picture's clearing up a little bit. All right. What is going on? Florida State family, Seminole Nation, and the 863 tribe. It is your boy, POLK, a.k.a. A-Lo, a.k.a. the goddamn truth. Episode 81. And the inevitable kind of happened. We touched on this pretty much last week. So why are we rehashing it? Well, it came to pass. And so let's talk about the effects on the roster. I want to unpack this a little bit. I want to unpack the McClendon situation. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, let's recap. Last week, we addressed DMac being essentially unhappy with his role at Florida State. A couple months before that, he threw out some tweets that he later deleted. This was all kind of in the making. Last week, we addressed him being unhappy. Pretty much a week later, he has hit the transfer portal. So this has not blindsided or shocked any one of us. But I want to unpack it a little bit. I want to look at some of the pros and cons from not only Florida State side, but I also want to talk about DMac and the way he handled this and his side of this equation. So that's what we'll unpack here today. But of course, before we get into all of that, ding dong, time to ring the doorbell, time to hit that like button. Smash my like button like Greg Jones smashes DBs.
Go your motherfucking ass to sleep. Whoa, shit, what the fuck good buddy hit me with? I told him I wasn't sleepy. He had to have a brick in that bitch.
Smash the like. And of course, like always, let's do a quick roll call. And we're going to get into the topic of today's discussion. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Truth Be Told is in the building. Jonathan McIntosh, Seminole Zach 95, Todd Pope, Kenny Hayden, Briley. Same people talking. Island Boys in the building. Tyler Head, member of the 863 tribe. Peter Shields, member of the 863 tribe. Anthony Cheers, Jeff's member of the 863 tribe. Gaming Wizard, Eric Sutton. Big 3 T2Y in the building. DJ Ferg. Let's Get It Mon. Zozuki No EMG. Michael Adams. Raymond James. Remember the 863 tribe. Richard Pride. Tyrone Oliver. D Thompson. J Adams. Montre. Chris a.k.a. Sporadics in the building. And that is everybody so far. Shout out to everybody who's with me on this glorious Tuesday evening. So let's unpack the situation. Lewis, P86, member of not member of the 63 tribe, but my man Lewis in the building. Let's unpack a little bit. Okay. DMac has hit the portal. We talked about it. Okay, so again, this isn't something unforeseen. We basically the theme of last week's episode wasn't necessarily DMac, but it was that maybe more people would be in the portal than anticipated. DMac is the first domino to fall, and we accept Brandon's in the building, ML1219 in the building. But we expect probably, I won't say a hefty amount, but we expect more. Maybe, again, more than I initially thought, 4 to 5. I think now we're kind of maybe in that, 7, 8, 9. Maybe hit good old round 10. Wouldn't quite shock me. Rose is in the building. Coach BT3 in the building. And did I say ML1219, member 863 tribe? Well, if I did, oh well, I'll say it again. So DMac hits the portal. First thing you think of, okay, defensive end depth. Let's start with Florida State. And let's start with the pros and cons of FSU, of DMac's leaving. So let's start with the negatives. Obviously, you look at Florida State, and you look at the depth, right? You look at the depth and you go, okay, unless they're seeing something from one of these young guns. I routinely mentioned Byron Turner. Byron Turner has been a guy that I've mentioned since the end of last year. Like, this offseason was going to be absolutely critical for a Byron Turner. For lack of a better phrase, Byron Turner either have the shit or get off the pot, right? That's the term that you would kind of throw out there for him. Like, you either gonna get either now or never at this point with Byron Turner. I still believe that, but I think DMac gives him a little bit more wiggle room. DMac leaving gives him a little bit more wiggle room. Maybe they are seeing something from Byron Turner. Now, I know Byron Turner and both Lamont Green Jr. had sacks this last scrimmage. I would say take that with a bit of a grain of salt, because I'm not sure what unit on the offensive line they were lined up with. I'm not sure Byron Turner was seeing the ones or the twos, for that matter. It's possibly he wasn't. It's possible that he was. I don't know for a fact. I haven't seen anybody be able to verify exactly which unit he's going against. But the fact is, Lamont Green Jr. and Byron Turner both registered sacks in the scrimmage. That's a plus. That's some good stuff. Dante Anderson is another one that I like to mention, just because he's been in the program a year. He's morphed his body. You're talking about a guy that came out of high school 6'3", 200, and now you're looking at a guy that's probably 6'3", 240s. So that tells a guy that's been putting in the work, has changed his body, and maybe is a guy that can give you quality snaps. So those are the two guys I would say at the top. Jaden Jones is a guy that I would look to as well. The problem is he's coming off that knee. How ready is he going to be? Is he using spring for more rehab, and maybe he'll be a full go in the fall? All those are possibilities. Don't know quite with him, so he's a little bit of an unknown. And then I wouldn't put a lot of expectation on Lamont Green Jr. despite having a solid scrimmage. That's not a knock on Lamont Green, who I think can be an excellent player in the future. But I would expect Lamont Green Jr. to take that Patrick Payton route. He's another guy that comes out of high school extremely thin. You get that year like Pat got, and you could be all freshman ACC. As a freshman, Lamont Green Jr. has the possibility to be that, right? So I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on him. Before we continue, I see some chats I need to get to. So let's go up to my man Chris Robinson in the building. Of course, Orlando's always on the check-in when it comes to Chris. As you see, what up, POLK Orlando on the check-in. Shout out to Chris, as Orlando is always on the check-in.
Tallahassee, I'm with the Seminoles. I've been getting to this paper, focus on my goals. Trying to run this money up and pull up in a row. All these Talking gangster, that shit getting old.
Let's get to a little bit more of these comments before I continue. Let's see. Let's scroll up just a tad bit. Chris said, hit that like. Yes, sir. Please hit that like. I told you all my YouTube members last week about DMac. He can't help himself. Miami's got a decent basketball team, so he done showed his face back up. T2Y can't help himself. Shout out to Miami in the Final Four. I'm rooting for FAU, by the way, for the rest of the way. I'm rooting for the Owls. Hoot, hoot. It's cool to see both FAU. I'll be honest, because we don't care. Look, we don't care. We don't care about basketball. I mean, some of y'all might, but come on. Y'all know me. I was telling y'all, let's sacrifice the basketball program for the football program. We don't care about basketball over here. But shout out to the Hurricanes, man. It's probably the only time I shout out the Hurricanes. Solid basketball squad, man, in the Final Four. But again, we rooting for the Owls. Go Owls. Hoot, hoot. And T2I, just stop. Just stop it. Shut that up. I want to hear that shit. Let's see. Matt J says MJJ, let's speak it to existence. Briggs back at DN. It's not impossible. I don't know if for Briggs, it's definitely possible. It could definitely go that way. You know, we forget about Briggs because we've been talking about some of the younger defensive tackles. I mean, that's a good point. Maybe you just tell Briggs, hey, man, we're going to keep you at that defensive end spot. It's completely possible. It's completely possible. Darren Watson says, little Tyler, yeah, but Darren Watson says, why is he leaving? Well, let's get into that. My assumption here. I'm gonna give you what I believe, and then there's rumors that have been tossed out. Ultimately, for me, man, playing time. He tweeted again months ago. Don't remember the exact. I want to say it was around December time, man. It was whenever. It was when.
Daddy, my sister's TV is not working.
Okay, tell her to make it work. As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. He tweeted some months ago, whenever she was doing all this promotion or whatever, he didn't feel like the FSU faithful was appreciating him and the guys that have been there. He was basically something to the tune of, you know, they're only showing the transfers. Now, he eventually deletes this tweet, but you kind of knew then he was feeling some type of way. Fast forward to now with Pat Payton all but being praised this entire offseason as potentially taking that next step into stardom. Verse comes back. Gilbert Edmond being looked at in a positive light so far in the camp. DMac has not been he's just not been happy with his role. That is my belief, that DMac simply is not happy with his role. And so playing time getting cut, importance of his role getting cut. There's rumors that he's not happy about wasn't being voted a leader on the team. A lot of things there. That last tidbit, men, take that with a grain of salt. Don't like really reporting on. Well, I don't report anything. I just commentate. Don't want to commentate on something that I don't know for sure. Right? But yeah. There's that. What's up, Benny, man? How you been? Good to see you. Jeff with the $10. Shout out to Jeff. He says, I'm not surprised about DMac. I mean, Patrick Payton. I think he's going to be the guy next to Verse. Absolutely. Shout out to my man, Jeff, with the $10 dono. Appreciate you.
Jeff.
So this is what Briley's alluding to here is what the rumors I've heard too. Again, I don't know the validity of these, but it is what's been put out there. And Briley says DMac thing really came to a head after the leadership council vote. PT was definitely a primary factor, but I think it was more than just PT. So what he's referring to is, being put it like this, bro. You can't force someone to see you as a leader.
That's not gonna make the TV work.
Okay. Go do something else. You can't force somebody to make you a leader. I say this all the time. I believe to a certain degree you can manufacture leadership, but leaders are born, not bred, and or born, not made. Sorry. And you can't force people to think of you as a leader in that light. Again, this is all assuming that this is true. You can't force your fellow teammates to look at you a leader. Now, I understand DMac's mindset to a degree. You've been there through the worst of the worst. So you expect some type of reward for sticking with it. I get it, but that ain't how life is. And your reward is being a part of a team that has high expectations. But it's not about you being voted a leader. It's not about you being a starter. The cream rises to the top in all these situations. And again, leaders emerge. You don't appoint someone a leader. Leaders naturally emerge. It's just the way it is. So there's that. And I'm just scrolling down the chat real quick. So there we go. To continue, so pros and cons, right? And we're still on FSU and we're talking about the cons. So cons becomes depth because now you have to find that replacement. Is that replacement already on the team? Is that a replacement that I think regardless of if that replacement is potentially on the team or not, if I'm Florida State, I'm watching every high key defensive end battle around the country, especially in like the SEC, some of the better teams across the country. I'm watching their defensive end battles because the loser might be out of town, especially if that loser, is we call him a loser, but especially if that loser is a quality player, but he just doesn't. They're moving on. Maybe they've recruited over a really good player. Like these things happen. Maybe another team has another DMac where he thinks, he deserves a better role. I don't necessarily think you have to find a major upgrade here. You just need to find the equivalent of a DMac, in my opinion. Okay. So depth becomes is a con on the Florida State fine. And that's honestly the only negative. I want to be clear. That's the only negative that from a Florida State standpoint, that is the only negative that I can see is that depth potentially gets messed up. Because say what you want to say about DMac, and no, he wasn't Pat Payton. No, he wasn't Jared Verse. And I don't know if he's Gilbert Edmond because I know Gilbert Edmond started with South Carolina, but guess what? Gilbert Edmond ain't played in the Garnet and Gold yet, so I have no idea what he is with us. But he was a guy who knew the playbook, he wasn't a guy that you put out there and you were scared to death that he was going to give up big plays. He might not have been the guy that was going to get sacks or change field position or cause turn. He wasn't one of those guys, but he was a guy who was going to get in there, give you quality snaps, and he started for the most part. So you weren't concerned with DMac, right? You weren't concerned with DMac. 1 second, I just got a text, but you weren't concerned with DMac, right? So that is. I see you text me, Chris. Give me this. I'll read that. I don't want to read it now. I don't want you skewing my view. Don't skew my view. These are just my opinions. Remember, this is just my opinions. I don't know any facts. I'm just giving you my viewpoint from the outside. But yeah. I lost train of thought. Say what you want to say about DMac. He was a quality rotation guy who was going to give you quality snaps, and you didn't have to worry about him when he was in the game. So that's the con, the only real con. The pros, you freeing up a spot. I don't want to label a guy a bad teammate or a cancer or a bad guy just because he had a disagreement and is deciding to move on. So I don't want to take that route. But if we're being like, everybody's on the same page, okay? It doesn't mean that guy's a bad guy, but go out there, go into the world and try to make your way. But in order to accomplish your goals, everybody's got to be on the same page. We're talking ACC. We're talking ACC championship. We're talking playoff berth. We're talking potentially shocking the college football world in year 4 of Mike Norvell. Well, everybody's got to be on the same sheet of music. Everybody's got to be singing to the same tune, or this thing's not going to work. This thing's not going to work. And so that's what this is. And that's one of the pros for Florida State. That's what this is. You're freeing up a scholarship and you getting everybody on the same page. If you can't get with it, then unfortunately you got to get lost. And then of course you get a chance to see what some of these younger guys are made of when you talk about pros and cons for Florida State. Where you really get deep into is the DMac side. And before we get into the DMac side, let me go to the comments. Let's go to the comments. Let's start here. Chris says, we have 2 DNs on the field at all times. Pat and Verse don't play the same side. DMac play the same side as Pat. So he was worried about recognition and not playing time. Both. I would say both. I think from the sounds of it, it sounds like he was coming to grips with the fact that maybe his playing time role would be reduced. But in what's the word I'm looking for or whatever, but because of the playing time, I think he was expected to get maybe a bigger role on the leadership aspect of things, but who knows? Tyler says, if it is the vote thing, being Mr. Twitterfingers talking crap about your transfer teammates ain't gonna get you votes. Facts. Like, if you want to be a part of the leadership council, right? If that's what we're talking about here, do you think it showed great leadership when you tweet what you tweet and then delete it? Absolutely. Seminoles next. I think not having DMac hurts us in the fact that he's a very competent starter and we need that depth at DN. Absolutely. That goes a part of the cons. I don't disagree with you. And ultimately, like I said last week, and I'll reiterate that, if it was up to me, if you in a perfect world, I would keep DMac. I don't think this is a guy that they necessarily wanted to lose. I don't think they wanted to lose him. But I think it was necessary when you talk about what I was talking about in terms of cohesion, everybody being on the spreadsheet, the same sheet of music, singing on the same tune or whatever, to accomplish something bigger than yourself, then this needed to happen. This was a necessity. This needed to take place. Man, let's tamper. At this point, what does it matter? Remember this time last year, it was widely known USC tampered with the Bolitnikov winner, and it didn't matter. No repercussions came out of it. And guess where he ended up going? To USC. Tamper. Not only was that widely known, it was also widely known that there were a handful of schools trying to tamper with some of Florida State's guys. Tamper. You should be talking to Marvin Jones Jr. right now if you can. Why not? I checked it, but I'm not going to read it right now. What's up, Born Legacy, a.k.a. Tim? What's going on with you? No, you good. I'm going to read it later, but I don't want you skewing my view. But I do appreciate the insight, Chris. I really do. That's true too. Good point from Briley. The best player on the team in a rebuild won't be especially if they last this long, normally won't be the best player when it's built. When it's built. So I don't want to go that far. I don't think this is a Brownlee situation. Though as more things come out, it does sound a little bit more damning. But with that, yeah, we can let's segue into like I said, man, tamper, please, tamper. There's no river tamper. Please tamper. Let's segue into that, man. Let's talk about the pros and cons when it comes to DMac, and this is where the conversation I think opens up a little bit and gets a little bit more interesting, because for Florida State it's pretty much black and white. You kind of hurt on the depth side of things, but it opens up things on the positive side. It's addition by subtraction. I won't say unfortunately, but unfortunately for him, but it's addition by subtraction to a certain degree, because yes, you do lose a key depth piece, but getting everybody on the same sheet. I'll continue to reiterate that, because I think that's important. I really do. So for Florida State, man, it's really black and white, pros and cons. For DMac, it's a little bit more convoluted. So if we start with the pros for DMac, ultimately, again, I sympathize with him in this aspect, because we're all humans, and I think we would all have similar feelings. Now, it's about how you handle the feeling is how you move on. Can you swallow that pride? But I sympathize with him in this aspect. You were here from Taggart through COVID, through the 0-4. You were here he was here through it all. And you stuck with it. You played hard. I'll never accuse him of not playing hard. I'll never accuse him of not being committed. You know what I'm saying? Or slacking off, or none of that, right? You played hard. You did all of that. At some point, I think you want a bit of recognition. You want a bit of why am I not on the cover of whatever? Why don't I get invited to ACC Media Day or something like that? I mean, realistically, is DMac gonna get invited? Again, this does come with some what am I looking for here? Some self understanding of oneself, of okay, I'm not that, but I to a degree I understand wanting to be rewarded for your loyalty. I just think with DMac we disagree on what the loyalty part of it is. I think the loyalty part of it is just having you on the team, being a part of something bigger than yourself. Where for him, I think the loyalty part, right, self-awareness. I think the loyalty part for him was he should be rewarded with some type of title, some type of, maybe I'm not the most talented DN in the room, but you know what? You should start me anyway because I've been here. And that ain't how this work. But the pros for him, again, because since I sympathize with that mindset, the pros is he's going to get a chance to go somewhere and prove anybody that doubted him wrong. He's going to get a new change of scenery. He's going to get a chance to show people that he is the number one guy. That's the pro. That's the pros. The problem is the negatives, in my opinion, really outweigh the pros for him. And unfortunately, as these things continue to come out, he doesn't sound like he handled it. You got to handle these situations better. I gotta advise these young men on how to handle these situations. Newsflash: the man hadn't participated in a spring practice and what are we, 6-7 practices in? He hadn't practiced spring all. If you're DMac and this is just my opinion. I'm gonna compare him to Dylan Gibbons, and here's where you'll see where I'm going with this. Dylan Gibbons had a similar situation to DMac, where he was a guy who was with Notre Dame for 4 years, did everything they asked of him. He was their swing. He was their Darius Washington. First guy off the bench, could play all positions on the offensive line, from center to tackle. It's at tackle emergency situations, but he would play guard, center. He was that guy. And he transferred Notre Dame to Florida State because they weren't willing to move him off of that spot. They didn't reward him for that, for being, to make him a starter. So he transfers. The difference is the handling of that situation. Dylan Gibbons didn't transfer till after the spring. Dylan Gibbons participated, and at least he competed during the spring. And then afterwards realized, okay, I was just out competed. I'm going to move on. This man, I really hate the way you handled the situation. If you want to be that guy, go out there and show Pat you that guy. Go out there and show Verse. If anything, show the new guy, Gilbert Edmond, that you're not just going to come in here and take my spot. But instead, you didn't practice. You didn't compete in the spring. So why do I bring this up as a con? Well, I don't know, man. Teams might look at that. Teams might look at that as like, bro, why didn't you participate in the spring? Now, I think most people's opinions would be different if he had practiced all spring, and ultimately, man, you just get beat out. But if you just, again, the handling of the situation, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. And then on top of that, I got a question: where's DMac really gonna go? This is what I'll be most interested to watch, is what level of football is he ultimately going to decide to play at? Because if he's, I can't, for like a team, a contending type team, like you're leaving a contending team. You're leaving a team that is, again, competing for, at a minimum, the ACC championship. That's a fact, right? That's what you're leaving for. Best case scenario, this is a legit playoff team. Worst case, we should at least make the ACC championship. So either way, you in a you in postseason play. Who are you leaving for? Because I don't think another team on this level, when I said championship, meaning conference championship competing or playoff, I don't know. You're just another rotation piece for those teams as well. So where are you gonna go? You're gonna go to a middle of the pack. North Carolina could use you, maybe. I can't speak for North Carolina because I don't know their whole situation. I don't know their roster, but I know that defense wasn't very good last year. North Carolina could use you. They took Amari Gaynor. Maybe y'all can reunite and do some things for them. But what is North Carolina like? Is it guaranteed that he would even start for them, or just be another rotation? The only guaranteed spot I see for him is like Group of 5. Maybe a Maryland. Maybe a Maryland. I don't know. What do y'all think? What do y'all? Somebody probably said Miami. Let me go back. Let me scroll up a little bit so I can read some more of these comments. But Bradley said Miami. Pro Pat Payton gets unleashed. He's the ACC Rookie of the Year, and it's his turn. Don't disagree with you at all. At all. And I'm telling you right now, Seminole Zach, you say he will be defensive end when Verse leaves. If Pat has the season that some think, him and Verse will be in the same draft. Yeah. I don't know how long Stephen Dick sticks. I'll be honest with you. That's one of the guys that I think is probably on the chopping block. So I don't disagree with you, Ferg. I'll come back to that one, truth be told. You say name 6 guys that I think need to hit the portal, in my opinion. I'll come back to that. Brandon says, that's my thing about it. Way more cons than anything. VJ says it, and I don't disagree with VJ here. He says, I think Ward showed how to do it, where he felt like he wanted it. But, Ward hit the portal early. You saw the writing on the wall. But also, forget the writing on the wall for a second. Like you said, he showed how to do it. No subliminal tweets. No vote me on the council or else. Just, hey, I see what's coming. I see Rodney Hill back there. I see Keziah Holmes back there. And Trey Benson has kind of surpassed me as the number one guy. Let me go try somewhere else. You can respect that. Briley said, last year DMac said he was the best defensive end in the nation. I don't know the guy, but I have known plenty of people who couldn't be prepared to realize they aren't as good as they think they are. No matter how much effort you put forth to convince them of reality. But here's the thing. That's where I think you got to question the effort. And I'm not questioning the effort on the field. We saw that. But when you don't suit up for spring because you feel some type of way, now I am questioning your effort. Because if I feel like I'm the best defensive end in the nation, there's no way I go out like this. I'm getting on that field and I'm showing these boys why I should be on the leadership council or whatever the hell it's called. Why I should be in one of the starting two spots. He chose otherwise. Now he hasn't participated in one practice this spring. What's up, Vontae? And like Tyler just says here, the fact that he didn't practice lends more credence to the off-field stuff being a major reason. I agree. And this isn't a bash. We're just unpacking. We're talking. Okay. Ultimately, I got no issues with DMac, and I really hope he has success where he goes. Apparently, Chris texted me where he's going, so I won't break that right here, obviously. But because I do know him and Chris had a decent relationship. I know that he interviewed him, and I know toughs like this when you're a content creator or some form of an insider and have some link to the program. I know situations like this can be hard to talk about. It's one of the reasons why I shy away from actively trying to communicate with active players and trying to. It was a thought that went through my head at one point, like maybe I should try to reach out, and I shy away from that because y'all know me. I'm going to call you trash when you play trash. I'm also going to praise you when you do something well, but you could see how that could be a conflict of interest. I just had Jerry and Jones on the show, but I'm calling them trash the next day. So to save all of that, I'm just going to sit here and talk my junk regardless. Bradley says he can go to Miami. They probably could use him. Dude, they don't want him. Stop lying. Y'all need some help down there. Beggars can't be choosers. Jeff with another $10, bro. He says, hey, this is what's going to happen when you start either a recruiting or transferring players. They are better than players you have. There's always going to be hurt feelings. There's absolutely always going to be hurt feelings. Some people can humble themselves or swallow their pride to a degree where they don't mind being a part of rotation. And I think, like Briley kind of alluded to, I know you think you're the best guy in the nation, but at some point reality had to sit in. Like at some point you had to realize, I think I'm the best, but number 5 is really damn good. And number 56, who's number 11 now, but number 56, man, that kid's pretty insane too. So you go from being the best in the nation to not even the best on your team, not even one of the top 2 on your team. And yet for you to still have the mentality of I should still be in this certain position, that's a tough pill for an athlete to swallow. So again, I can understand the mindset. South Carolina might take him. Hand me downs, boy. From what I hear about y'all defensive tackles, heard them boys all the 5'11", 260 down there on that defensive line. You might want a couple hand me downs. Our worst defensive tackle probably start for y'all, T2Y. Dilly, Arizona State, but again, that's two totally different caliber of programs. Arizona State, they ain't contending for nothing. You can go there and you can probably start. You're absolutely right. Arizona State, you can go there and probably absolutely start. But you leaving a team that's trying to shoot for bigger and better things. And that was kind of to my point. Let me catch up here in the comment section. I don't want to get too far behind. I like this one, though. 7 sacks in 2 seasons. We might be able to find that somewhere else on the roster without that. I mean, that's ultimately the point, right? I said this. I'll make a perfect example because this situation is a little similar to a guy we just saw leave the same position last year. That's Quayshawn Fuller. We remember Quayshawn Fuller? And I remember Quayshawn Fuller leaving. What are you doing back there? I remember Quayshawn Fuller leaving, and there was a decent size of fans that weren't too happy just because you kind of thought maybe he takes that next step. And then the depth purposes. We didn't know how good Verse was going to be. Pat Payton was an unknown at this time last year. So really all you had was Fuller. Quayshawn had been in the system for a decent amount of time. Maybe he takes the next step, right? And I told people then, I said, that's not a big deal because this is when I told people Pat Payton was coming. I told people, I said, Pat's coming. And when you get a guy like Pat Payton who's outperforming your fourth-year junior in practice and can be more productive than, and at this point, I think Fuller maybe had 1 sack in his entire career at Florida State or something crazy like that. I said, don't worry about Quayshawn Fuller leaving. Pat Payton is coming, and he can't pause. But here we are. The point being, very similar situation here where now the only big difference is I can't say the same thing about some of these other young guys. I don't know that Byron Turner is next level up. I don't know if Dante Anderson is the next guy up. I'm hoping, but I'm not as confident in those as I was in Pat. But to Matt J's point, I do think if push comes to shove, if one of those young guys aren't taking the step they want them to take, they will address it in the portal, at least I believe. And then Briggs moving back over probably won't be an issue. And with as many defensive tackles as we have and the length we have at that position, there's already been talks of Fisk, FSU playing more of what they're calling a 5-man front. And at the basic level, it is a 5-man front, but it'll be more, I believe, more 3-4-esque in the way it's utilized. Basically 5 defensive linemen. But I think you'll have, I think you're going to see plenty of packages of Darrell Jackson, Fabo, and Fisk on the field at the same time. And then they're going to stand the 2 edge guys up. But they'll be defensive linemen in theory. But I think Verse is going to play more. I won't say more, but I think Verse are going to have plenty of opportunity to stand up. And I think they're going to stand up Pat, and they're going to rotate guys like Byron. Guys that can stand up on the edge, I think they're going to utilize that. So it'll be a 5-man front in principle, but maybe utilize more as a 3-man front. That's how I think they're going to go about this. What's up, Champs 99? What's up, Terrell? Oh, yeah, man, you ain't heard about Miami's defensive tackle room? You ain't heard about Miami's where they get the boy from? They got a boy from Memphis that's like 5'11", 270. And you ain't heard about, man. Go check them out. They could play they could play DMac at defensive tackle down there, man. So, yeah, when we talk about the cons, I just feel like they outweigh DMac in this situation where you don't the optics look bad. And then what are your options? But if you're okay with taking a step back, maybe ultimately, maybe you care about putting on better tape for the pros. Which again, I get. So there's that, man. We touched on the DMac stuff. We don't have to spend too much more time on the DMac stuff, but it's come and gone. He has decided to exit, and FSU's gonna move on. One monkey don't stop the show. The train's gonna keep on rolling. So hop on now if you haven't hopped on. By all means, Florida State fans, go ahead and hop on this train because we still chugging along. But we just got to take some stops along the way, and DMac got off on one of the stops, and it doesn't stop now. And I'll address one of the questions here coming up about who's some more guys that I think I hit the portal. Let's read some comments, and then I'll touch on that one. Yeah, we don't play Louisville or NC State, man. Them boys gonna be life and death with Miami of Ohio, bro. Y'all better hope it don't Middle Tennessee, y'all. That's gonna be a good game. That's gonna be a good game, man. Don't sleep on Miami of Ohio, bro. Miami better recognize. And T2 might talking about LSU, but at least it's LSU. I would say Miami of Ohio gonna humble y'all, but y'all have been humbled enough. They just gonna flat out probably beat y'all. Shout out to the Miami of Ohio. What are they, the Hawks or something like that? I don't know what they are, but them boys the real deal over there in Ohio. They say they the real Miami. They the real Miami. Marco said we finna curb stomp the Canes. Yeah, Marco's our resident Louisville fan over here. Shout out to Marco. POLK said, do you know why Cam Davis dropped that much in the recruiting? I don't. But I would say this. To some point, those recruiting rankings sometimes are a joke. And it could be because Cam Davis is winding down his recruitment. Remember, on his last visit, or at least his last interview, I don't know if he's visited since then, but on Cam Davis's last interview, and I don't think it's a coincidence, on his last interview, what does he say? He says, I'm about ready to shut this thing down. I pretty much know where I want to go. I don't want to waste any more time. I don't want to waste any more school's time. I'm about to shut this thing down. And then all of a sudden he drops in the rankings. Well, did his talent just evaporate overnight? Or is it he ain't attending these camps no more, or doesn't plan on attending these camps in the future? When you don't pander to some of these recruiting websites, this type of stuff happens. The recruiting, ultimately, what I would say is simple. Watch players and you evaluate them for yourself. Because what happens with these recruiting guys is it's all a popularity contest more so than it is who can actually play ball. Popularity contest and who can make it to the most Under Armour camps and Nike camps. I'm not saying all the recruitings are bad. Some are properly evaluated. Some guys you can just look at and go, that's a dude. You know, watch these guys and evaluate for yourself. That's the way I look at it. Another 40 burger on the way. Shout out to T2I, man. Marco says, I played at Miami of Ohio. Plies and I were in the same signing class. We were the Redskins, then changed name to Red Hawks. Okay, Red Hawks. I knew it was the Red Hawks or War Hawks. I knew it was something like that. Shout out to Miami of Ohio. Yeah. Absolutely. Then why Arch Manning did drop? Boy ain't got no camps. You said it yourself. In your question, I want you to read that again and ask yourself why Arch Manning didn't drop. By the way, I think Arch is probably a very good player. But Arch Manning didn't drop for a reason. And Tyler says they could drop to a no star. He'll be right. Right. I mean, they did the same thing with, remember what On 3 did with Cromartie McLean at the final rankings. He went from a top 5 player in the country, number 1 overall corner, to like 30 or something ridiculous to a complete 4-star. I know Cromartie didn't come to Florida State, but anybody who watched the kid knows better than that. Anybody who watched the kid knows better than that. Let's talk about it, man. With the first domino falling, who's next? Somebody mentioned it before, Steven Dix. I think Steven Dix is a name to watch because Lundy's apparently looking good. I mean, he's wearing Derek Brooks' number, so he better be looking good. But we already knew that. We already knew Lundy, Bethune, Deloach. That's the 3. That was the big 3 last year. That's going to be the big 3 this year. The question was, could a 4th guy emerge? The game plan seems to be to push Omar Graham to the limit, as it should be. I know you got Brendan Gant there, and that's a good fallback option. But I think it speaks volumes that Brendan Gant's name gets mentioned more than Steven Dix's name. Steven Dix could be on the chopping block for sure. Anytime a converted safety who was 190 pounds last year is getting mentioned more than our 6'2", 230 Olympian bodybuilder linebacker, I think that tells you one guy is a workout warrior, one guy's a football player. And I think that might be the case with Steven Diggs, unfortunately. Looks good in workout clips. Looks good pause when the cameras are on in the gym, but maybe leaves a bit to be desired on the football field. Lundy could be out. Excuse me, not Lundy. Sorry, Dix could be on the way out, and that comes with Gant and the fact that again they are pushing Omar Graham to his limits. They're going to put him in situations that Omar Graham. They're going to find out. For those of you that are curious if Omar Graham is going to be like the next lead, the next wave of linebackers after this bunch leaves, I think we're going to find out if he's got it or not this offseason because they're pushing him. They're pushing him, and they want to see. They want to see. So Dix, Jackson West is still a name that somehow I don't even know how the man's still on the. I get shocked every time I realize that Jackson West is even still on the roster. And that's not even a knock on Jackson, even though he's kind of been here a while and hasn't made any kind of progress. It doesn't seem anyway. Obviously, I'm not in the building. It's just the fact that look at what they've done in the tight end room. They are grooming the next wave of tight ends in Jabril and Courtney. Those 2 are the guys. Jabril Powers is a big athlete. Courtney, I am very interested in Courtney. He's a lot more athletic than I originally thought, Brian Courtney. And I really think he's got some tools to be a really good player. As I've seen more of him. Those are the guys they're grooming. While in the meantime, you've actually developed Marcus and Douglas. And of course, we know what they got out of the portal this year. So Jackson West has to be a name. So that gives you 2. Okay, that gives you 2 off the bat. Now you go to the offensive line because I'm trying to go to positions that I think attrition will happen. O-line has to be the next position. O-line is probably actually the first position you should look at when you talk about attrition because you got big numbers there. And the talent level has been drastically increased from when you recruited Thomas Schrader, Zane Herring, and Brian Estes. If we're being honest, that the talent's nowhere near what it was when you initially recruited these guys. All 3 stars that I just named, by the way, too. Now, I actually like Estes in terms of his strength. And I find it interesting Is he just not athletic enough that they can't use a guy like that? I feel like they should be able to find a way to use him, but maybe he just doesn't move well. He can be as strong as an ox, but if he can't move in space and pull and do the things that they want him to do, maybe he just can't play for Alex Atkins on this O-line. But out of those threes, Estes is the guy that I would like to keep, but it wouldn't shock me if you lost all three of those guys. It wouldn't shock me. And I'll throw another name out there that I don't think people would be happy to hear. But we just talked about Dylan Gibbons being Notre Dame's Darius Washington. Is Darius Washington humble enough to say, to be content with his spot of being our swing offensive lineman? Is he content enough to continue to thrive in that role? I think we all will say, sure, but we don't know him. And these guys do have egos. That's one of the reasons why they're at the college level of division of D1 ball, because they do have egos. They have pride. They have confidence in themselves. At what point does Darius look at it and say, "Man, I'm tired of backing up guys"? Because Darius went from being a starter, but as we've upgraded the line, he's been pushed down the depth chart. I feel pretty confident in 3. It's two, especially 2 of the 3. Schrader and Herring, I would be shocked if they stayed on after. I would be shocked if they stayed on this team after spring. So that gives you 4. We got Jackson West, Steven Dix, and the 2 O-linemen. You could add Estes in there. It's probably another one. And then again, it wouldn't even shock me if Darius left. Like, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. Though I won't put him in the group. If you want to talk about shocker, I think Darius could potentially be something like that. It's just talent on the O-line has drastically increased. Then you go to receiver. I think with Winston Wright injury, I don't think you worry too much about receiver. And that's mainly because majority of your receiver room is made out of transfers. So they would have to sit again like a Deuce Spann. Even if Deuce Spann doesn't emerge, well, does he want to transfer again and sit out another year? He probably doesn't want to sit out a year. He's already burned 1 red shirt. That would be the only guy that I think I wouldn't look at receiver. There's talk of maybe a running back, but from what I hear, every running back's having their moments. Even CJ, from what I hear, is really impressive. Rodney Hill got rave reviews after the scrimmage. We know what Trey is, obviously, and we have a pretty good idea of what Keziah is. I think the next position you would go to is Brock Glenn being maybe better than some of us thought. Does that push? Somebody mentioned it earlier. Does that push Tate? I'm gonna say Tate because I saw some clips of AJ Duffy throwing that thing. So I don't foresee AJ going anywhere. Does it push a quarterback out the room? My hope is no. Personally, that's my hope. Because I think the consensus is no matter what, unless Brock Glenn is I don't know, unless he's CJ Stroud or something like that. He's not. I don't care how good he might be. You sit him this year. So ultimately, you still got 3 deep at quarterback. My initial thoughts are you won't lose a quarterback, but then it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if a quarterback got pushed out because the emergence of that. Brock Glenn might be a little better than some thought. I'll tell you right now, the one thing I've been impressed most about Brock is he's a way better athlete than I thought he was. And I was always pretty good on him. Like I always thought fairly high of him. Like initially when we knew we were losing Parsons and thought we were getting him, even though he did commit to Ohio State, but we ended up getting him anyway. I always said I didn't see a different. I didn't see much of a drop off. If anything, I saw a little bit of improvement between Brock and Chris. I didn't see any drop off there. But I didn't know he was the athlete that he is, which has been impressive. So what do we got? We're still stuck at 5. Jackson West, the 3-0 lineman, and Steven Dix. And you add DMac, that's 6. I mean, that might be the number. I can't really think of too many other guys. There may be some shockers left, but I don't see any. Malcolm Ray. Malcolm Ray's the guy, the defensive tackle that if there was going to be another transfer, I would say Malcolm Ray. I think the young bulls are coming. The veterans are cemented. So now Malcolm Ray, in my opinion, is in limbo. Is he better? I don't know if he's as good as the young guys coming in. I don't think I know if he's as good as Daniel Lyons and Bishop Thomas and Tafasi and these guys. Heck, KJ's not even on campus yet. And I'm pretty positive he's not as good as Fabian Lovett, Fisk, and Daryl Jackson. Hell, and even if Dennis Briggs, if they keep him there or wherever they decide to do it, Briggs. I would take Briggs over Malcolm Ray. Malcolm Ray's in a weird spot. He's in a weird spot. And that could be a guy. DBs, I don't foresee any DBs. I can't see a DB. And we already talked about it with DMac hitting the portal, where originally I thought this was a make or break year for Byron Turner. Even if for whatever reason they come to realization that Turner can't play at this level, I don't think they'll push him out the door, so to speak. I think they'll let him stay on the team for depth purposes and move on from him after the year. Let's see what y'all talking about in the chat. Let me scroll up. Let me find out where we started. Okay, I see. Let's go to T2Y. He dropped $5 probably to say some foolishness, but I appreciate the dono, T2Y. He goes, them boys lost their best defensive player, 6-6 this season. Shut that up. I want to hear that shit. But I know what, T2Y, I appreciate you. Thanks for the dono.
Bitch, be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
Oh, look who showed up to be with T2Y. You don't barely come around no more, New King. What's good? What's good with you? Got something for you too. Shut that up. I want to hear that shit. Yeah, like Tyler says, Jackson West's been here 2 years now and walk on still over him. So yeah, I think we would all agree that Jackson West probably on the chopping block, right? As a man dropped $5 to lie. Nasty word. Vontae says play Jamie twice. Too easy. Say less.
Bitch, be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
Right, Will. Actually, we lost the best defensive end in the nation. Getting the facts straight. Tyler says, I hope we keep Estes, man. He was playing next to Armello last year. I thought so. That's my thing. I thought so too. I know a lot of people think Estes is out here. I hope we keep him. I really do. Seminole Zach, man, you make a good point. And I forgot all about this guy. Burrell is a guy who I don't know. You're absolutely right on this one because I don't know where Burrell fits. I don't think they know where Burrell fits. He's built like Jaheim Bell. Can you? Is it too late to? He was a wide receiver. They moved him to running back. Now he's listed as an athlete on the roster, so he's a positionless player. Is it too late for Joshua Burrell to work as a Jaheim Bell type? Can you let him shadow Jaheim Bell this year, which I think he had surgery this offseason anyway. Joshua Burrell did. Is it too late? I don't know. But Burrell's another good one, man. That's another good one. Because I absolutely forgot about him. Colorado will be the only spring game aired on the main ESPN channel. Damn, y'all should have hired. We'll be all right. We'll be all right, bro. He had no choice that COVID year, and then, yeah, you're right. Now you look at especially that first class. That first class was garbage. Hunter Washington no longer on the team. Who's the offensive tackle that ended up dipping? Or no longer on the team. If I would probably pulled that class up, Malik McLean's no longer on the team. Dustin Hill never made it to the team. If I pull that first full recruiting class up from Mike Norvell, it's probably some you say nasty work. That's probably some nasty stuff right there. Bro, I've been tired of it. And the crazy thing about some of the stuff he's saying, I agree with. Now, when he started talking about recruiting a single parent, that he lost me with that big time. I can dissect that piece by piece, but we won't go there. But this most recent thing where he's talking about single digits, for the most part, I agree with everything he's saying. When it comes to the single digit stuff, they should be earned. The only thing I disagree with on the single digit stuff is that linemen can't wear them. Why not? If your lineman is one of the best players, D lineman, not offensive lineman, when you're D lineman, why not? Why can't they wear a single digit? But all that other stuff, wholeheartedly agree with the single digit stuff. Earned, not given. Hell, y'all know my stance on certain numbers at Florida State. Like, I know this is a fake jersey, but like number 9. I don't think we should just be handing out that number. I think we should bring 2 out of retirement. But it should be earned. No freshman should ever wear the number 2. You shouldn't sniff the number 2 unless you're talking about all-American caliber defensive player, defensive back. So, yeah, I'm with you. What's up, Irv? We spent the first hour pretty much talking DMac, the situation, and that he's hit the portal, and the I don't want to call them facts, but the information surrounding him entering the transfer portal, the speculation around it. That's basically what we hit on in the first hour. Now we're talking about other guys that may hit the portal and talking junk to T2Y because he's trolling. T2Y, I'm again watching Miami win the ACC title game in football. Oh, wait, you can't. So Tyler brings up a Tafasi thing. There's been so much speculation around Buddy this offseason. But he was at practice today. He's been practicing. He's been suited up and booted. So there's been so much speculation about Tafasi and him being unhappy. There's just been so much around that. So where there's smoke, there's got to be some type of fire. I would hope to not lose him. But there's been so much smoke around that. But I know he spent this spring break. Again, the only reason I know these things is because you got to watch these guys' YouTube vlogs. But he spent this spring break around Florida State and with Jaden Floyd. And I have the best of hopes for this one. I hear the same smoke y'all hear, Tyler. I don't think. I think we're fine. I hope we're fine. Yeah, Jalen, I'm gonna be honest with you. You're probably the only one who thinks that. Not even gonna lie to you. You're probably the only one who thinks. I don't think that. I think he was a senior anyway, though, wasn't he? Wasn't Jamie a senior? Didn't he come in as a sophomore? I think Jamie was a senior. I'm not too sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be wrong there. Maybe he was a redshirt junior. Could be wrong. Hester's definitely another guy. I got to believe they try to do something with that before they just let him hit the portal, but he could absolutely be a guy. We've already spoken on that. He's just undersized to be a true defensive end, and if he can't stand up and play backer, well, then you got a guy who's just you can't use, unfortunately. So I don't think Travis J. From what I hear, Travis J. Has been good. I won't call him great, but he's back at more of a natural position for him, which is safety. I think Travis J. We can't afford to lose Travis J. But I think Travis J. is fine. I just feel like if Travis J. was going to hit the transfer portal, he would have did it during last season where he was out the entire – like I find it hard to sit out an entire year for Travis J., practice in the spring, and then hit the portal. You would have just hit the portal already, got your fresh start. That's just my opinion. I don't worry too much about that one. Caveman in the building says, I don't know if anybody asked this question already, but what is your perspective on the DB room coming out of the scrimmage? So there were no cameras, no media members. A lot of it was inside information. The talk from the scrimmage is that the defense dominated. So some of the young guys have really stood out from that DB room. Kirkland has been really the big name at a spring. Kirkland. They're just impressed with his size, speed, and movement. He's a 200-pound DB already out of high school. So they're just impressed with that all around when it comes to Kirkland. Cypress has been fine. He's been great. They're pretty much getting what they expected out of Fentrell. And everybody else competing. That Jarian Jones has gotten praise of being Jarian Jones actually being called a good defensive end, good DB now. So that's promising. It's promising. I think DB room is fine. I think we're thin at safety, but I think the guys we got can play. I ain't even do it for you, Marco, but since you asked, Jeff, this is for you and Marco.
Never Jeff.
Champs doesn't think Estes is going anywhere, which is great because, again, I don't want Estes to go anywhere. But I agree with y'all about Burrell. And Burrell, that's a tough one, man. He can't get on the field. Yeah, I don't think DeFonsi leaves, but if we were to lose someone out of the defensive tackle room, I could see it being him or Malcolm Ray. I stand on that Malcolm Ray thing. And I know he signed with Battle, but again, I don't know where Malcolm Ray fits in all of this. Ray Fitty says, "Pope, do you think Dante Anderson done past DMac?" I hope so. I hope so. I really do. I have some high hopes of Dante. I'm not yet at that point where I want to give Dante that Pat Pate hype that I gave Patrick last year this time. But that's honestly, out of all the guys, I'm looking at Dante more than a Byron Turner. I'm looking at Dante Anderson. I think he, as a walk-on, but he was a forced. I think that's a guy to pay attention to. Let me read some more comments, Tyler, and I'll definitely get back to the thoughts on the scrimmage. I think Steven Dix is the portal. Greedy got a lot of love. Good point, Briley. Greedy got a lot of love. I think a lot of DBs got a lot of love. I think we're good on the DB room. No, absolutely. He did sign with Battles in and he left. Absolutely right. You're not wrong. So thoughts out of the scrimmage. Again, no media was allowed at this, so it's a lot of hearsay and sources tell me this and sources tell me that. 1 second, my throat's getting dry. The initial reports out of the scrimmage, or the names that were mentioned. Again, I said Byron Turner and Lamont Green Jr. both had sacks. Again, take those with a little bit of grain of salt. I don't know what O-line unit they were lined up against. So, if they were lined up against walk-on left tackle here, but, you're still working those guys in the spring. I don't know how much you really take from that. We know Robert Scott's not really participating, or he's limited this spring. So I'm not even sure who's taking first team reps at that tackle spot. That actually is a great question. I don't know if anybody in the chat has that answer, but knowing that Robert Scott is not really participating in this spring, who is getting first team reps at tackle? Is it Darius or is it somebody else? That's a great question. So I'd be curious to know who those guys were lined up against before I would give like a huge. But spring game's around the corner, man. So we're going to see some of these guys. I'm excited to see it. Again, Brock Glenn was a name that really is Armella getting first team reps at tackle? If he is, that's very positive news. If he is. Love to see that. You lost. I got lost here for a second. Rodney Hill. Rodney Hill's another name that broke. Apparently, he broke some tackles. He turned some heads. I don't know how much Trey Benson probably, if I had to guess, don't know this, but I don't know how much Trey Benson probably played in this scrimmage. But hearing Rodney Hill's name, A1. It's good to hear some of these young guys, which tells me that this initial scrimmage was really focused on your young players, because Brock Glenn was another guy who got a lot of praise coming out of the scrimmage. So that tells me your young guys are really the focus of this, and I like that, because we all know the big spring game, people are going to want to see what? The big players. Focus on some of these younger guys to get them ready. So those were kind of the big names that came out of spring, or the first scrimmage, if I'm not mistaken. Which young DB do y'all think has the most potential? Of course, I think AZ definitely has the highest ceiling out of the young guys. Don't sleep on Kirkland. Quindarius Jones is an athlete, but I wonder, because he's a guy who played more receiver in high school, and they're trying to work him at DB. So I wonder where he fits in. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? What do they do with that there? But yeah, out of the young guys we got, I would say AZ has the highest ceiling. Norvell knows he has a championship caliber team. You can see it in his face when he speaks. He's confident. I think Armella, and is it Armella and Bless paying the tackles? Interesting. Briley says Armella's working at right and not first team. Tavasi's been at every practice from what I've seen. Hold on. There we go. Just hearing the D-line is dominating makes me feel good. We know that talent on that O-line. And, you guys have probably heard this already a million times. So I'll just, beat a dead horse. But you're early in spring. Your defense should be dominating. Like, I would be worried if it was the other way around. Because think about it. Your O-line, you've got, with Robert Scott out, you've got probably 4 guys on that O-line who maybe don't have a lot of continuity with each other. At least 3 when you talk about Roddick, Byers, and Jones, with Roddick working at center and guard. Some people think Roddick is going to be really, really, really good at guard. And he would be a good center, but the upside with him would be if he was a guard for us. So that tells me, we keep saying it. Don't count Maurice out. Don't count him out. We may very well have Maurice Smith starting at center again this year, y'all. And Roddick and Jones, or Roddick and Byers, I don't know. Jones, from what I hear, he's real good, but it's a weight thing. So his good is really good, and his bad sometimes can be pretty bad. And they keep saying that it's a weight thing with him. He needs to get in better shape. So I think Jones will use this offseason to get in that shape for sure. But yeah, don't worry I wouldn't worry too much about it. I expect the defense to be there. Defense should be here. Remember, it's easier to play defense, it's harder to play defense than it is offense. But when the offense is just trying to learn what to do, the defense has an edge because they're just reacting. And if you're reacting to guys who don't know what they're doing, it makes your job easy. So, Polk, they're saying Jacobs might be the next Rashad Green. Yeah. Vandarius has been getting a ton of praise, which is dope for me. Well, not for me, but it's dope for me because, again, I said that guy was my favorite guy in this class. Before I knew he was going to tear up the spring, it's just the way he plays, the grit he plays with, the way he played the game, was a huge fan of. Thought Vandarius was my favorite guy in the class. So I'm glad to see that it's not just a bunch of hype or he's showing what I saw. Some of the O-line issues are just continuity. Bunch of new guys, bunch of cross training, but it'll work. Oh, absolutely. Again, no worries there. So no, I don't think Briggs hit the portal because I think Briggs is a part of whatever rotation. And especially with DMac leaving, you could put Briggs back over there at defensive end. There's a lot of bodies in these rooms, but I don't foresee Briggs leaving. And yes, Sapp has been Quayshawn Sapp's probably your third string guard right now. Think about that. Former 4-stars, your third string, not guard, I'm sorry, but center. Because I think it's going to be some combination of Roddick and Maurice Smith at the center position. So yeah. And then Tyler says, shout out to Mo. Just keep his head down. Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. And I've been hard on Maurice in the past, but I think it was deservedly so because at one point I swear Maurice was playing at like 250 pounds. One thing I always said about Maurice is that he was a smart player, and if he was 300 plus, he'd be an All-American. But when he was super small, he just got blew up. And ultimately, physics plays a part in this with Maurice. Never thought Maurice Smith was a bad football player. My problem with Maurice was always, bro, you're just too small. And when we going up against the Clemsons and some of these bigger defensive lines, he would just get his lunch ate. I mean, even in last year's spring, go watch Maurice Smith get dominated by Coop of all people. When's the last time Robert Cooper made a play? And no, I don't want to look. I like the trench monster, but seriously, he was getting blown up. And all he continued to do was work and work and work and get better as the season goes along. Get better. And now apparently he's 290. Maybe he can actually hold up throughout a season. Maybe we finally do have. Maybe he can be all first team ACC at center. Shout out to Maurice Smith. I never thought he was a bad player. I just always thought he was just too small, man. But he's continued to work, grind, and like Atkins says, every offseason I bring someone in to take his job, and he proves me wrong every offseason. Imagine your coach saying that about you. To openly admitting, yeah, I'm bringing people in here to directly take that job from him. And he wins it every time. And like Tyler says here, he ain't on Twitter complaining. He ain't asking why I ain't featured here or bro, just a football player. So got nothing but love and respect for Maurice for real, because this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. I'm gonna get on here and I'm gonna criticize, bro. I'm gonna praise, but I'm gonna criticize too. A guy like Maurice Smith, I got nothing to do but respect it. Nothing to do but respect it. Same thing with Jarian Jones, believe it or not. I know I've been extremely hard on Jarian. But apparently he's turning that quarter, and I got nothing to do but respect it. I don't take back anything I said, but I got nothing to do but respect. Oh, Josh Farmer's going to be a beast. If you want to talk about a defensive tackle you need to watch, that's not the big three. The big three are Fabian Lovett, Fisk, and Darrell Jackson. But if you want to talk about that next guy, it's Joshua Farmer. Going to be a monster. He's been talking about watching a guy grow up in front of your eyes. Go watch Louisville and look how poorly he played in that Louisville game. He looked like a deer, a newborn deer. Like he looked like he didn't know how to walk. Farmer in that Louisville game, when he had to come in, because Fabo went down, I believe, in that Louisville game. I think that was the first game that Fabo went down. And Farmer had to come in. He looked like he had never played football before. And he just, again, another guy that just got better. And big expectations from Farmer this year. Bingo. Absolute bingo here. Yeah, I know he was real good at Miami Central, but he was always undersized. But no, he was like all day? He was like all day county or something like that. He was like South Florida Player of the Year or something. He won some like awards his time down there. And I know Boston College wanted him out of high school. So yeah, man. We hit 1:30. Y'all know how we do on these hangovers. We don't keep them too long. So unless there's a little bit more, I can go 15 more minutes. If we want, we can do 15 more. But if we don't have anything else, hey man, that'll cut it tonight. The first domino in the transfer portal has hit, and unfortunately, it's a rotation guy. It's a rotation guy, but I think it's a guy that I think most people would want to keep. But I think we will be better for it in the long run. I really do. I don't know if I want to go Timmy. I don't know if I want to go Jernigan. Jernigan was that dude from a true freshman. Jernigan was 3 and done. There was no red shirt with that one. So I don't want to go that far. Number 8 was a different breed, but Farmer's good. Farmer is good. I don't want to go Jernigan. I haven't seen a Jernigan since Jernigan. We haven't quite had that. Haven't quite had that one. Jernigan was a 5-star for a reason, and no offense to Farmer, but so yeah, I listened to Coach JP talk kicking, and apparently that's an open competition there, y'all. So Fitzgerald isn't penciled in as the starter. Apparently that's an open competition, and I will admit, I kind of dismiss kickers at time or act like I don't want to talk about it. I don't like spending a lot of time talking about the kicking game. But if we want to, I said this last year, and I stand by this. I think there's 2 reasons why you lost the NC State game. Obviously, the drops and the interception at the end of the game and all those things. But if we would have had confidence in our kicker, we wouldn't have the play call wouldn't have been to throw that ball and get that interception that ends that game. The play call would have been to set up for the field goal. Obviously, we didn't have confidence in the kicker. So kicking is going to be critical if we're talking about getting where we want to get, and that's the playoffs. Well, you got to trust your kicker to get there. So to Bradley's point, yes, kicking can have you worried. And in a way it should, because it can be and most likely will be a factor at some point. You are going to have to ask your kicker to win a game. NC State should have been the moment where you could have sealed that game off. And instead, I think because you didn't trust the kicking game, we play for the touchdown, again, in hindsight, you can agree, disagree, whatever. Had you trust your kicking game, you call a little bit more of a conservative play call down the stretch. You just set up for the field goal. You walk out of there with the W, right? Cool Breeze says Goldman was close. Goldman, different type of player than Timmy Jernigan. Goldman was a way bigger body, but Goldman was a really good defensive tackle. Don't get me wrong, really good. I still don't think he was quite 8, but again, they serve kind of different roles. Bradley says, me either, but I got to find something to worry about. No, I feel you. And kicking should be a priority. They should prioritize finding the right kicker for sure. Rafi says, don't be surprised if Rodemaker's the portal. AJ getting second team snaps as he should be getting, but I don't want to count out Rodemaker. But no, I don't. I hope not. But again, with the emergence of Glenn and AJ has been getting, again, they showed some clips of AJ throwing the ball. Yeah, I mean, Rodemaker could be the odd man out. I don't know, man. After last year, I think it's crucial to have a good kicker. See, every time I say that, I don't like talking about kickers. Somebody takes it as, no, Zach, you're absolutely right. It is crucial. Like I just spent the last few minutes saying NC State is a perfect example why a kicker is crucial. You're absolutely right. Whenever I dismiss kickers, I always get that guy that's like, no, man, kicking is important. I just don't spend a lot of time talking about the kicker. You have one job. Kicker. You don't have to worry about tackling nothing, reading a defense, nothing. Running a route, knowing a playbook. You go out there and you kick a ball through the uprights. Get it right. Get it right. And then Tyler goes, hopefully one of those kickers has his head on right. Hopefully. Oh, don't bring that up, Tyler. Don't even bring it up. Remember? Y'all okay. Tyler knows. I wasn't gonna bring it up. If we go watch a live stream from a month ago and look how many people told you they didn't believe in Duffy. They think Duffy should be out of here. Go look. Now all of a sudden he's second. I ain't saying that was you. Who originally? I ain't saying it was you, Ray 50, that was saying that. I'm just saying there's a healthy portion of the Seminole fan base that said Duffy would never play a snap here. I was one of the guys that kept telling you, don't sleep on AJ. He ain't winning the job, obviously, but don't sleep on AJ. Devontae saw it too. They was kicking the man off the team just a month ago. Go watch some old live streams of mine. Kicking them off the squad. And then Briley says, there's no reason for Tate to transfer after spring. He'd be a backup anywhere else too. But I could see him going in December if Duffy. True. To your point, Briley, no point of transferring. Where are you going to go and start? Wherever you go, you're going to be a backup anyway. Stay throughout the season. And like he said, then come December, if you want to have a fresh start and maybe earn a starting spot at the next school in the spring, then you transfer. But great point. You transferring after the spring, Tate Rodemaker's not that caliber of quarterback where he can transfer after spring and get a starting job somewhere. So you're going to be a backup regardless. Don't be a Chubba Purdy. Don't transfer to continue to be the backup. Lesson learned. Born Legacy says, I ain't going to do it. I love you too much, my brother. I was going Dustin Hill. Hey, apparently he coming. So we'll see. Apparently he coming. Apparently he is on his way. Fitz better tighten up this year. FSU faithful will be on. Yeah. And then our Davius with the last comment here, and then we'll get out of here for the night. People were saying we need to bring it up. Bro, I'm just glad other people saw it and we just not going to forget it. But I wasn't going to call nobody out to bring it up. I just that's all I can say. But One more time, man, before we get out of here. One more again.
Go your motherfucking ass to sleep. Whoa, shit, what the fuck good buddy hit me with? I told him I wasn't sleepy. He had to have a brick in that bitch.
I would say excuse the language on that one. It's just funny to me. But the more I listen to it, the more I realize, dang, he cusses a lot in that. But smash the like button, man, on the way out if you didn't smash the like button on the way in. Thank you for tuning in on this Tuesday night. You know, some news broke, so we had to chop it up. News broke, we had the hangover about it, and here we are. We come to the conclusion. DMac's out. Spring is in full effect. There will be other exits as we finish spring and end spring, and we expect there to be other exits, but we also expect after spring, you might bring a few guys in to replace those guys. There's battles going on all across the country. Guys will be in and out. We'll see how that plays out. And we talked about some of the expectations of guys who also some other guys that might leave the program, but I'm excited for the spring. I'm excited for the season. Football 247 around these parts. Y'all know how it go. Hit the like button on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. And again, thank y'all for tuning in on this Tuesday evening. You have a great rest of y'all Tuesday. As always, it is your boy POLK over here on 863 Seminole TV. Stay classy, my Seminoles. And we are out here. Go Noles.